Okay, so let's get started. Um, okay. Yeah, so today we'll be talking about the topic here, securing PHP applications. Okay, so here are the agenda. We'll be talking about the intro, and then we assume you have a prerequisite knowledge. We will be discussing some of the um, prerequisite knowledge that we assume you already have, and then PHP security layers, and then tips and tricks, and then live practice. So this webinar is not for a newcomer, not for newbie. At least you need to have some background. Okay. And yeah, we try to maximize as much as we can in this 1 hour. Okay, so these are the agenda, and then okay. So for those who are new to GLC, usually there are new people here coming to the webinar. So we are GLC, Garda Lintas Cakrawala. We are based in Indonesia, in Bandung. So our areas are IT and IT training and consulting. We develop software. We also do teaching for about MicroTik, with teaching networking, from MicroTik, Ubiquiti, Cisco. We do also teach Linux operating system, Linux system administrator, Linux Kubernetes, and so on and so forth. Yeah, we also develop our own product like GLC Radius Manager. We also do regular events like what we are doing now. My name is Achmad Mardiansyah. I'm based in Bandung. I'm doing Linux, MicroTik, Ubiquiti, and other stuff. Um, if you have LinkedIn, and then we can connect. So this is our past experience, mostly related to network and system administration and programming. Right. So about the webinar itself, we started since 2010. Yeah, so you are also welcome to join us here. So thank you for joining. Looks like not so many people are coming. So if you don't mind, so could you please uh, introduce yourself so at least we know from where you're from. Okay, so prerequisite. So at least we assume you already know some of the stuff here, like how HTTP works, how a PHP application works, how computer network works, and then Linux system administration. Because running PHP applications, I mean, you like it or not, it's it's a it's a it's a group of applications that provide that service. Okay, so PHP is not standing alone application, so it needs to be supported by other application as well. Okay, so let's talk about it. First, because we are trying to, we talk about securing, at least we know what is the definition of security. So security that we mentioned here is from here from USA, CISA, cyber infrastructure. So it's an art for protecting networks, devices, and data. Okay, so to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, so security is very subjective term. So it depends on where you are. So that's why the definition of cybersecurity in the world here uh, is defined by has many standards. Every country has their own policy for cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is it depends on your culture, it depends on your policy depends on your situation, your condition, etc., etc. Okay. Right, so that was cyber security, and then the type of security, we have a computer security, network security, internet security. So computer security is a name for designed to protect data at the computer. So network security is protect data during the transmission, and internet security is security on interconnected networks, so between networks. Okay, so as I said, security means CIA. Okay, right. C means confidentiality, integrity, or availability. So in confidentiality means A want to send to B. Here's the data, but in the middle there is a C here. So usually this is Alice, this is Bob. Okay, this is Charlie. Usually this is the uh, one analogy that people created to explain security. So A wants to send to B, but in the middle there's a Charlie. So confidentiality means if uh, if A sends a text, so that text has to be delivered in the same format. So not the same format like this. So what it sent is what it is received. So so for example, it's sent, it received like this. Okay, even though it is the same, but it's different format. So it means that the data is changed here. Okay, so this is the original, and then the data become this, and then there is a problem with confidentiality here. Sorry, integrity. Um, sorry. Confidentiality means prevent unauthorized use of disclosure information. So it means that confidential means only B can see. Okay, so I'm explaining too fast. So if A is sent, B is received, confidentiality means only B can receive that information, even though the Charlie can get the message here, but Charlie cannot decrypt. Usually, the technique for confidentiality is encryption. Okay. Okay. So encryption means even though you receive or you tap my message, but you cannot understand what it means. Okay, because it's in encrypted format. Next is integrity. Integrity means to make sure that the data that is sent is similar to what it's received. Okay, so the one that I was explaining in the before was about the integrity. So if you send text like this and then you receive all are in capital letters, so we have problem with integrity. So integrity has been compromised. Next is availability. So it means that yeah, uh, the user has ability to access the data. Okay. So for example, the server down, it means that there is a problem, right, with the security. Yeah. So availability is to make sure that the data is always on. The server is always on. Okay. So that was the a review about security. The thing is here, CI is when we talk about security, it means it's a CIA. And then we move forward to OSI layer and protocol. So when we talk about computer networks, we talk about layers. Each layer has its own functions, and then each layer has its own PDU, protocol data unit, which is data, and then there will be a encapsulation process, and then the data here becomes when you add the layer 4, it becomes segment or datagram. When you add more header, here is the add header, and that will become packets. If you add more header, okay, it will become frame. Okay, so on layer 2, uh, we add not only header but also trail. All right, so this is how the computer networking works. Okay, so after you understand how it works, and then one application here is 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 HTTP, right? Yeah. So computer networking has many applications, but one popular application on internet now is a HTTP, right? Uh, yeah, HTTP protocol is it's the protocol that is mostly people use in the internet. Okay. So here it is. When you access a URL in the browser, so browser is HTTP client. Okay. So browser is HTTP client. So you put here a URL, and then here it is, for example, and then there will be a DNS lookup to translate the domain name into the IP address. Okay, so checking the cache first in the browser, checking the operating system and the router and the ISP. Okay, if cache is failed, and then there will be a DNS lookup here. Okay, and then finally uh, you get the address. Okay, so address for example.com, for example, is this one. So after that, after you know the IP address, and then there will be a TCP connection initiation. So it is we call it three-way handshake. Okay, so client sends sync first, and then the client the server replies here. Okay, and then the client send again acknowledgement. Okay, so after it's done, is continue here, and then we set up HTTP request, send it over internet, and then uh, inside the HTTP request, usually we put here a GET request, either gets HTTP, this is the URL, and then here's the protocol, and then this is the version. Okay, and then server response. Okay, so this is from client. Client is the one that is requesting the request, and then the server response, and then here are the response, either is 200 or 500 or whatever. And then here's the response. Okay, you get the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, and then your browser will do the rendering here. Okay, and then finally you will see the content of the website. Okay, so yeah, as simple as that. Uh, yeah, so on the web server itself, there is a website stack started from, yeah, similar to what we discussed previously. So we start from IP, okay. Oops. Yeah, from IP. And then on top of that, we use TCP or UDP. Also, we involve DNS. If we use HTTPS, and then we will use TLS. Yeah. Okay. This is the HTTP protocols, and then on top of that, we have HTML component, CSS, JavaScript, and then API. Okay. So all of this is called the web. Okay. So let's talk about the PHP application flow. So we are going into more detail about the server itself. So in this page, we talk. What we see is we send through a server, and then the server responds. So this is the server here. Okay, blah blah blah. This is the server. The server responds. Okay. Yeah. So now we are going to look into more details about how the server looks like. Okay, so this is why we call it the PHP application flow. This is how it looks like. So all the servers, are here. Yeah, yeah. So this is the internet. Internet. Okay, so internet. Oh, sorry, not here. Yeah, here. So this is the internet. Okay. So here's the internet. Okay. So this is you. This is you. Okay. This is the person. The person opened the web browser. Okay. In the web client, and then the web client send the request. Okay, over the internet. Oh, okay, internet. So the request is received by the web server, and then in the one web page there is a two components. There are two components. First is the static components, for example, files, a direct file, for example, image, HTML text, yeah, other stuff. Yeah, so those for those elements, we call it HTML elements. If that element is static, is already included in the web server, and then the web server will will retrieve the data to the static data store, for example, in the file system, and then reply. Okay. So what happened for a website like a Facebook? So Facebook is dynamic website. So the appearance of the website, it depends on if you log in or not, right? So it's very, very dynamic. So if you don't log in, and then that's how it looks like. Okay. Always ask you about the username and password, ask you to log in, right? After login, and then the page will be changed. Okay, so for that kind of request, we need an application server. So this is where the PHP comes in. Okay, so PHP is called uh, an application server. Is there any other alternative that other than application server? Yes, you can use GSP, right? You can use a Python. Yeah. So the thing is, there are many options. .NET, right? .NET. There are many applications for. I mean, there are many options, alternatives for application server. PHP, GSP, Python, .NET, and many others. So the thing is, you have alternative, but the things that we discuss here in this webinar is the PHP. So for example, in case when you are login, so you log in, so you put the username and password here, you log into here, and then the request is received by PHP code, and then it's checking there is a logic, okay, checking into the database. Okay, so here's the database. Either you use MySQL or Postgres. In our application we use Postgres. Yeah, we love Postgres because it has lots of features. So it asks, is the username and password correct? Yes, if the password correct, and then set me here. And then after that, the PHP send a reply to the web server. Okay, so reply, and then after that, we'll send reply back at the server reply to the web client. Okay, so that's how the PHP works. Okay, so hopefully everyone can understand the concept here. So as you can see, the application components. So when we talk about an application, it's not only talking about the uh, talking about the um, PHP, right? In order to access the PHP application itself, there are we can think like there are many components, not many. There are several components that builds until you reach your PHP application, right? So first, you'll need to access the networks, and then usually you will access the Linux, and then the web server, for example, Apache, Nginx, and then the application server, and the last one here is the code. Okay. Guys, if you have any questions, and then you can write something here. No worries. Okay. So so based on this component, we can think like it's a network operating. We can think it is this is the layers for securing the PHP application. Yeah. So we can think this is a layers. Okay, layers for security, right? Uh, oops. Yeah, we can have a network. We can have layers in the Linux, Apache or application server, and then code execution. Okay. Oops, I need to rearrange the widget here. Okay, looks like it's okay now. Right. Yeah. So let's talk about the PHP security layers. So start from the network. Okay. So because this PHP is located on the is installed in the server. Okay, and then what's going on before you enter the server is the network. Okay, so this is the server. Okay, and then here's the network. Okay, network, and then here's the client. Okay, so okay, so here's the router. Okay, so here you can play a security role here. For example, you are installing a firewall here. So install a network firewall here. Okay, so here this is your firewall. So firewall can be you can install firewall from open source firewalls like OpenSense or pfSense or Linux, or we have IPCOP and then other stuff. Okay, you can use those kind of firewalls. Yes, for a paid firewall appliance, you can use Sophos, FortiGate, or etc. Okay, so what do the firewall do here? Okay, so it usually it contains features like country filtering. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of funny. For example, your customer is mostly based in Indonesia. Okay, you don't have any customer from overseas, for example, but because internet is a global network, so some bad guys from other countries are trying to access your server. Yes, it's possible. So country filtering has plays a role here, where it blocks IP address from other countries. Yeah, so yeah, that can be done. Also, it can support IDS, okay, intrusion detection system. So the firewall here is checking the has IDS features, and then one of the IDS feature is to recognize pattern. Okay, so it's checking. Oh, okay, so this kind of pattern is associated to this attack. So the firewall checks the IP address, and then the IP address is blocked. Okay. Also, it can support DPI. Okay, and DPI means deep packet inspections. So the purpose is the same with the IDS. So it's checking whether the incoming request is a malware or not. Okay, some features like DDoS prevention. Yeah, so for example, if an IP address here is sending many requests, okay, it will block a particular IP address. Okay. Yeah, so that's what you can do, I think, in the network. Is there any other stuff? Yeah, okay. I will add later in the slide. Okay. Yeah. And next is operating system layer. So after you pass the firewall, and then next is the OS layer. Uh, yeah. So here we can implement the firewall, but it's based on operating system itself. It can use NB tables or NF tables. Sorry, NF tables or IP tables. So now most Linux distribution is using NF tables, but previous distro is using IP tables. So here you can activate MAC features. MAC is mandatory access control. For example, SE Linux, Secure Linux. It's a module to implement MAC. So um, so Linux works, the way Linux works is based on the permission. Okay. Yeah. The problem is when you got the hack, yeah, the attacker, yeah, the attacker. Okay, so when we run service, for example, in Apache, and then the Apache. So after you hack Apache, and then the Apache is running on a non-root user. Okay, so you will get a non-root access, so you cannot change many things there. But for example, if your exploit is, for example, you change your privilege to root, for example, and then now you are root, and then it means that if you are root, you can change many things. Okay, so that's the things that is avoided by the MAC. Okay, so MAC is a policy. Okay, it's a policy. It's sitting on top of root. So this is root. Okay, and then this is the MAC, and then here's a non-root user. Okay, so so MAC is not a user. Okay, MAC is a policy. What kind of policy? For example, uh, I can use in var www. Okay, so this one can do read and write. Okay, uh, so /var /mail. Okay, so this one is read only. Okay, so even though if you are root, okay, but the policy says that, okay, for var mail, the policy here is read only, even though you are root. Okay, you cannot change anything. Yeah, so the policy is is has higher privilege than the user. Yeah, so this is what this is the what is it? This is the motivation why we I mean not we the community on Linux operating system is creating was created the SE Linux. Okay, because in some cases the hacker only get the root. Okay, and because it's got the root access, it can do anything. Okay, so with the policy, we can say that, okay, so you can write in this directory, but cannot write in that directory. I don't care if you are root or not. Okay, so that's the SE Linux. So this is very good, I think, but there is a but. But yeah, uh, configuring the policy is kind of a trick, not tricky. I mean, it requires more learning. Okay, so it's not that easy like maybe other stuff. Okay, like learning HTML. um, yeah, as setting up a policy for SE Linux requires you to to understand how application works. Okay, on which directory does the application, for example, the Apache is writing the files. Okay. Okay, so I think what else? Is there anything else? Hmm. Um, Maybe not. Okay, so that was on OS layer. Next is on Apache layer. Sorry, not Apache, not on the web server layers. Okay, so here is uh, yeah, so a web server layer. Okay, so web server. Okay, one of the web server, the famous web server. One of our favorite is Apache. Why not Nginx? Because Apache has lots of features. Yes, but Apache is using more resources. Well, that depends on the npm you are using. Well, so if you use npm event or worker, Apache has three workers. So first is prefork, right? Other is event, and then a worker. So npm. Yeah, so prefork mean is based on the process, event and worker is based on thread. So thread is a sub process. Okay. Okay, so that's the npm. Yeah. Well, other things that you can do is to provide HTTPS. Here, you need to provide a certificate, right? Certificate. You can use other npm to save resources instead of CPU, RAM or RAM. Okay. With worker, it's you can save these resources. Okay. Especially for the RAM. Okay. For CPU, I think it's the same, similar. And then you can activate log. You can implement access list. Maybe I can share the whole screen. Yes, so yeah, we can use Apache access list. Yeah, access control here. Yeah, so in Apache there is a yeah, so there is a feature for access control. So it means that, for example, you want to grant a particular IP address. So here you can use in Apache. But all of them are just a command line. Well, should be no problem because you are a system administrator. If you want to configure, well, I think there are some GUI for configuring the Apache, for example, webmin. That one I think you can use. Well, is that all? Oh yeah, you can also use here. Actually, not dose evasive, but mode evasive. Sorry, I mistyped the name. Mode evasive. Yeah, mode evasive Apache. So here you can activate them. Okay. So here it is. Yeah, mode evasive. Yeah. So yeah, mode evasive is used to defend against the DDoS or yeah, DDoS attack to your application. So it means that a mode evasive can check, okay, uh, is there from is there any access, for example, one IP address is sending 1,000 requests. This is not normal. Usually one IP address is sending maybe five, or five is a lot, for one website. only one, a maximum 10, for example. So if one IP address is sending more than 10, and then you will see a blank page of your website. Yeah, so that's the purpose for mode evasive. Yeah. Okay, so here you can use. Yeah. Others is mode security. Yes, we also use in our web server here. Mode security, yeah, Apache. Yeah, so this is a one example of mode security. Yeah, yeah. So the installation is quite easy. Okay. Yeah, so this is a new version for mode security, version 3. Previously was version 2. Okay. Yeah, so you can write something here and then yeah, implement it in your web server. Okay, so the things that we are talking about here is the web server. Okay. Right. So next is about the PHP, the application itself. So first, PHP. Yeah, first PHP applications. PHP.ini. Yeah, so this is the settings. Okay, so not so many setting here. Okay, so here it is. Okay, a list of INI directive, INI sections. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, here's the directive, and then here's the propose. Okay. There are lots of them. Here's the sections. Okay, so identified by square brackets. All right. So what are the things to make your application secure? First is limit directory access. Here you can use open-based directory. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so particularly, sorry. So in the beginning, open-based there is null. So it means that your PHP application can access any directory. Okay, so if somebody hack your PHP and then they change the PHP code, and then that PHP code can access other file, for example, etc shadow, etc password, other stuff. Okay, they can download, they can access many things in your server. Okay, if you use a base there. Okay, sorry, this is a typo. Okay, I shouldn't put the underscore here. Sorry for that. And then disable some functions. Okay, disable functions. Yes. Okay. So here it is. For example, disable functions. Yeah. So either you can disable internal functions or user-defined functions. So in PHP you can create functions, right? I can disable that function here. Yeah. So this is one way. So yeah, is there some functions? Yeah. Uh, a dangerous PHP function, for example. Oh yes, perhaps you can see here. For example, exec. Okay. Uh, the PHP can for example, if previously we have webinar regarding the Linux, right? And then Linux, if you are using Linux, and then what you do is a command line, okay? So it means that you are executing a command, a Linux command. So PHP can do that using this function. So exec, and then open brackets, and then you put your command here. Okay, so we can disable these functions using settings from php.ini. Okay, so yeah, you can disable these functions using the disable function command. A disable functions string on your PHP ini. And then also display error. Okay, you don't want to expose your applications to the world. Okay, so here display application. In display error. Let me check. Is there any display error? Oh yeah, yeah. So by default, display error is equals to 1, but for productions, better to turn it off. Okay. Next is running PHP in change root environment. So it's similar to open base there. Okay, so we create a particular environment. So it has its own slash home slash USR, and then so on and so forth. And then particular environments is used for running that PHP. Okay. So even though they can claim that, oh, okay, I can access this and that, but actually it's in the, it's like in the container. Okay. Okay, next layer is the code layer. Okay. This is important. Okay. First is input sanitation. First, do not always believe the data that is sent by users. Okay. Always check incoming data. So for example, if you want to, if you create a, okay, let's find online HTML editor, a form perhaps. Oh, not this one. I think I found some PHP editor. Oh, maybe from W3 schools here. Okay, that's right. Yeah, HTML form. Okay, so here's for example, right? So this is the form. Okay. So here it is. So I'm just too lazy for typing a code, so I choose to use this one. So here's, for example, the action page a.php. So all the data will be received by this file, the PHP file. Okay, what do they send? Okay, that depends on input here. Type is text, ID is fname, name of the variables, okay, and so on and so forth. So the user said type the data here, but do not trust, okay? Do not trust. So if you for example, there is an input here, input your age, for example, and then it's integer. Integer means a number, but sometimes they type text, you know. So that kind of stuff needs to be checked. Okay, for example, this is for age. Okay, age. Yeah, so even though it's age, you have to check whether what the things that they put is a number or not, is numeric or not. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So well, that makes uh, our checking is more. We need to do more tasks for checking. Yes, yes. The purpose is for securing your applications, right? And then so many security incidents happens on input. Okay, input. Yeah. So if you only have one web page that only consists of static files like a hello world, it is I'm really sure that it's very hard to hack because it can only say okay, maybe I can show you here. It's very static. Test.glc networks.com. Is it? Yes, yes. So this is a static files. Okay. And then for this kind of, there is no input here in this web page, just for testing. So this kind of website is rather harder to hack compared to if you have input. Okay. So test.theglcnetworks.com do not receive input. So if you, for example, you put here a variable one, okay, equals to blah blah blah, and then nothing happens. Okay. You can send variables. You can send the data through a post method or a get method, for example here. But the server just ignore it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, input sanitation is number one. Yeah. Why is it important? Because to avoid SQL injection. So instead of typing here John Doe, uh, perhaps the attacker can say put the drop uh, table user, okay, semicolon slash slash. Sorry, not slash slash, but minus is a comment for sending comment for SQL. Okay, so instead of typing here a username, the attacker can type a drop SQL command here. Okay, so for that, uh, make sure you can use a prepared statement for uh, for for PHP. Uh, yeah, what is yeah? Well, we can try PHP prepared statement SQL. Okay, so this is an example. Yeah, so this is for example. Okay, so meaning we don't put directly parameters here. Okay, so we bind the parameters. So this one we bind to here. This one we bind it to here, and then this one we bind it to here. So if they send something, and then um, it will not change the whole statement. Okay, uh, the statement cannot be executed because it's using uh, other statements. Okay, so the things that we put here it looks like we are containerized. We are isolating the input. Okay, so even though if you are typing a drop blah blah blah, we don't consider it as a command. It's just an input. So usually here we can put a quote that is saying that it is just a content. Okay, so you put your content there. So we don't consider it as part of SQL statements. Okay, so that was SQL statements, and then XSS site scripting. So for example, same thing. Okay, same thing. Cross sorry, cross-site scripting means in the SQL injection, what they type here is the SQL command. Okay, but XSS, what they put here is script. Okay, so for example, they put here a JavaScript. For example, JavaScript. Okay, script, blah blah blah, and then script. Okay, so when you um, yeah, so that what the attacker put here is the script, for example, JavaScript, and then the script is stored into the database. Okay, oops. Okay, script into the RDBMS. Okay, and then when it's retrieved, and then you will retrieve the whole things into the web page, and then the script here is executed as part of the HTML elements. Yeah, so you have to be careful with this. Okay, so for example, WordPress. Okay, yeah, some they already hack and then put inject a script into that. So when a when a when for example there's a website, and then attacker put inject a script into the websites. Okay, and then usually when customer or user checking, and then they also execute the script. Okay, yeah, so it's called cross-site scripting. Okay, next is do not upload framework on folder on webroot. Usually our webroot here is in Linux. We have /var /www/html. So this is the webroot folder. Okay, so your framework can be put here, var www framework. Okay, so this one cannot be accessed directly to the website. Why? Because the web root starts here. Okay, so your framework is not located inside the HTML. No, it's not. Okay, yeah, so that one, not do not put them into the web root. Otherwise, people can see the logic of your application. Either you can use code igniter, you can use Yi, or use yeah, any other framework. Okay, uh, yeah, for um, for for username passwords, uh, better use salt and plus hash. Okay, hash can be SHA-1 or SHA-256. Now it's SHA-512 is quite long. Plus salt. Okay, so for example, your password is hash123. Okay, so this is very easy password. Okay, but you need to add salt. Okay, salt means whatever A, B, 3, 4, 7, and J, for example. Okay, and then you combine, yeah, and then you do the SHA-1. Okay, okay, so this is how you implement the salt on your password. Okay, so I think that's all. So there are so many implementation about the security coding practice. But what I saw, yeah, most of them are related to input sanitation. So how to check to make sure that the incoming input is really what you intended to. Okay, so if you expect an integer, so you have to make sure there is no characters on it, only integers. Okay, only numbers. Yeah. If you expect, for example, the quantity, okay, QTY, yeah. So there is a, for example, here, uh, QTY, yeah. So quantity has to be uh, 0 or a positive number. So you cannot put a -1 here, otherwise the calculation will be wrong. Okay, right. So I think that's all. Anything else? Well, tips and tricks. Yes. Yeah. Implement all security layers about as much as you can. Okay. So make sure that you understand the security layers. Okay. So from network, operating system, web server, application server, code execution. So the sum for the summary, securing PHP application is not only responsibility for the code itself. Yes, the code is important. Yes, true. I agree. Yes, but there are others layers also. You can what you can do to make your application secure. Okay. From network, from the operating system, from the Apache itself, from the application server itself, and yeah, that's it. Well, thank you very much. I think we have done. Uh, uh, Thank you again for your attention. Uh, yeah, admin is not here because she is away for another things. But yeah, admin also request to put feedback here. So please check the group chat uh, and then submit your feedback to make us better. Okay, I'll be posting the URL. Also, for future events, you can check in our schedule in our website. We have a Facebook page. Also, slide will be uploaded to Slideshare, and recording will be available on YouTube. So stay tuned and subscribe and like. Is there anything else? Is there any questions? If not, and then I think it's time to a photo session. Hello. Hello, guys. Yeah. Any questions so far? No. Right. So thumbs up. Okay. Let's do the picture. Take a picture. 1, 2, and 3. Great. Okay. So I think that's all. Guys, thank you very much for coming. We'll see you in the next webinar, and then have a nice day.